So really glad you're here. Really look forward to today's discussions. I want to introduce our first speaker. I have the honor of introducing our first speaker. He is the CEO of N-able. He has been passionate about this for, I won't say it now, I was going to say decades. We'll say a couple years. He's a young man. Andrew Butt, please come to the stage.
Thank you very much, Sean. And some of you will know it has actually been multiple decades, so I don't want to date myself too much, but more than a couple of years. But it's great to see you all here today. Thank you for taking the time, the trouble to come in from all over the UK and also further afield. We really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to sharing and celebrating a lot of success stories over the course of today. But I want to just start with some history, not that, maybe this one here. And some of you will recognize this is Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the founders of Apple, in 1976. So going back a few more decades. And they're holding, as some of you will know, the first product that these guys built, the Apple I, okay? And this was before personal computers were invented. The idea of a computer on every desk seemed like, crazy talk, and let alone the idea of a computer in every palm. So these guys were really kind of visionary, and it was the early enthusiasts that were adopting this type of technology. And in those days, if you wanted a computer, if you wanted this product here, you had to actually build your own device. You had to take this motherboard, this board, and actually build your own computer, which many people did. So you needed like a soldering iron, you needed a suitcase, and a lot of imagination to create a computer. And this really just wasn't an established thing back then. I think they sold under 200 units. They sold it for $666.66. So obviously some humor going on there. But in many ways, this was like rebate management. That is also not a hugely established thing. That is something which has been adopted by quite innovative, early visionary people, which really is the people inside this room. And the early adopters of the Apple I, they said, look, we really want something much more consumer grade. We want to make this much more accessible to the masses, okay, who can't and won't build their own computer. We really want this to be something everyone can have, and they understood the value of, more people having this would mean it would create more value for everyone else. And that really inspired Apple to create the Apple II. And this thing really did change the world. This was the first personal computer around 1977, okay, which was launched, and from that moment onwards, the whole kind of personal computing evolution has obviously occurred. And it was because of that early innovation and those early adopters that really made this thing happen. And the reason I'm talking about this is the significance of what we are all doing in this room here today. We are here to make rebate management consumer grade, okay? I'm sure some of you guys didn't use soldering irons to build your rebate management solutions prior to N-able, but you did use spreadsheets and macros and formulas, and it wasn't that much different. So, we really are here to make rebate management accessible to the masses. We're here to make it easy and really, bring this to the market. Now, fast forwarding to another story, a bit more recently than 1976, Shopify is a company I'm sure many of you have heard of, and this was the day of their IPO on New York Stock Exchange in, I think it was May 2015. And the mission of Shopify was to make commerce better for everyone, okay? That was their mission. And I heard a really interesting story from the founder of Shopify, and some of you may know, he actually didn't have a tech background particularly. He actually was selling snowboards. He was doing a shop selling snowboards and trying to build an e-commerce platform for that, and was really disappointed with the technology that was available, okay? It was really, really hard to get him set up this online shop, and it took a very long time. So having gone through that experience, he decided to build his own system and take it to market, and that was the origin story of Shopify. And when he went to the market, went to Silicon Valley to pitch this and say, look, I can make e-commerce more or I can make it better for everyone, as per the mission statement. They said, this isn't going to work because there's only 40 to 50,000 online stores in the whole world. Okay? And that was not long ago. That was 2015. No, it wasn't, sorry, that was when it went public, but not much before 2015. Only 40 to 50,000 stores in the whole world. And so it was really, really hard for them to get things off the ground. But if we look at their stats now, they actually power over 4 million online stores, and that's just Shopify, that's not the entire market. So the Shopify customer base is 100 times bigger than what the investors saw was the entire market when they started. And as the founder spoke about this, he talked about demand versus friction. And he said this was not to do with a lack of demand. You know, the reason there was only 40 or 50,000 online stores was because it was too difficult. The demand was actually there, but it was just too hard to do. And so what they really did was kind of took that out of the way, removed that friction, and of course, you know, the whole platform was taken off. And again, that's what we're doing here. We're removing friction from this process to really kind of unleash demand. And in the process of that, we are really taking our businesses forward. We're improving relationships with our trading partners. We're driving our careers forward and all of those exciting things. Because the fact is, a bit like the e-commerce story with Shopify, there are millions, and I mean millions, of manufacturers, distributors, and retailers all over the world. And we've been fortunate now to see that all across the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, many parts of Europe, okay, in every industry where rebates are used to drive business performance. It's in every single pocket of the globe. And we need to take that friction out and make it much better. And so, you know, when we look at this, we are talking about impacting 80% of global trade. And we are talking about something which is often the single biggest cost for a manufacturer, and also often more than the entire profitability for a distributor and a retailer. So, you know, this is really, really big. This is really, really significant, and we all have an opportunity to do something here very, very well. And I think when we started all of this, we were just trying to digitize what people did now. So we were talking with these different types of companies that you guys represent in this room and saying, can we just digitize what you do with your solder irons and your spreadsheets and macros and put it onto a modern cloud system? So that was quite a good start. But where this has really taken off now is working together on how we can totally improve and reset and reboot those rebate programs so they can drive our business to the next level, okay? Not just digitizing what we have today, but how can we actually reimagine these programs to take us to new heights? And that's what we've been talking about as a rebate reset, okay? Again, inspired by you guys, inspired by our customers, and there's so many stories of that happening. And going from maybe annual programs, we set them at the beginning of the year, we roll them over, they've actually been the same for the last 10 years, they haven't really changed much, but we just keep doing what we do, into a new world of being much more targeted, much more surgical, personalizing programs for each different trading partner, making them much more frequent, product specific, you know, to drive business goals. So that's really what we're here to do. And it's just not enough anymore to be only transactional. If we just think about buying and selling, you know, maybe 30, 40 years ago, I could be a distributor, buy some stuff, stock it in my warehouse, people come in and buy it, and that's my business. But, you know, we're way past that now. We've got to be way more than transactional, and success really depends on being highly aligned with our trading partners and understanding what their business goals are. You know, what are each of my customers trying to achieve? What are each of my suppliers trying to achieve? And how can I then represent that in a program which we can execute together and get mutual success? And in the retail world, that's been called for a long time joint business plans. And, you know, the biggest consumer goods companies, Procter & Gamble, they will have a joint business plan with Walmart and a joint business plan with Tesco and so on. And that's what it's all about, defining how we're trying to win together, and then making sure we're earning the right rewards when that happens. So, you know, my vision really is a supply chain where trading partners are seamless extensions of each other, where we're working together like seamless parts of a whole, and where rebate programs connect every trading partner so that customers can find the best products, service, and value. And then, the important part is, the optimum margin can be earned by each partner after the transaction has taken place, okay? It can be paid, distributed across the value chain, if you like. And I think we're at a particularly exciting stage on this journey together. We've been working together for couple of years now, and we've really put rebate management on the map as a profession. I'll show you some stats in a moment of how far that's come, but we're talking, fairly big community now where this was kind of just not recognized a couple of years ago. We are in the process of bringing it to the majority, and we really are reimagining how trading partners can work together for mutual success, okay? This is not a zero-sum game. There are still those out there in pockets that believe this is like a win-lose. Someone wins and someone loses, but we've seen this genuine mutual success where both partners in the trading relationship can win, okay? They can get more revenue and more margin. They can win together against the competitor, but only by working together and winning mutually. So, like I say, really exciting time, and you guys are the visionaries. If you think to that Apple story, that Shopify story, you guys are those early enthusiasts, visionaries, working together, collaborating together to bring this to market. And my team and I are hugely inspired by each of you. So I really wanted to thank you for your support, and there's no way that we would be where we are now without your commitment and energy. So I can thank you and leave the stage, and that's all I've got to say. I know you'll probably are stuck with me for a little longer. But I was just thinking back, and it's hard to believe this is now our second annual Elevate event. What started as a really small idea, and we had a few people hanging around, in a coffee shop, now has become this series of city events. And so we have city events across lots of countries, and I think this one probably was about 50 people last year, and it's now more than double that. And then we also have an annual event called Catalyze that some of you have been to, and that's where we bring everyone together into the US at the moment. So, really kind of building momentum. And one of the things we ask people who come to our events is, we say, where do you go to learn about rebates and to learn about best practice, and what are your sources of information? And the amazing thing is, the top answer is that they come here. So, people literally are coming here and, like Sean said, sharing stories and learning together. And that's what it's about. We have certain knowledge at Enable, but the real knowledge is in the rest of the room. And there's a lot more here than some software. The software is just really an excuse for a much bigger conversation. And then, of course, in addition to that, we've got the online community. And the event in Birmingham last year was December, so just under a year ago. And we had just over 600 members on rebatestrategist.com. And as you can see, that's hugely increased. And who would have believed that there are nearly 3,000 people who are passionate about rebates, who dream at night about rebates and what we can do with them? But it seems that might be the case. Also, we've created this university with more and more content, and there's actually certifications and courses that people are taking. And it's really exciting to be in a room where we're having a conversation and people around the table have said, oh yes, we've actually been on this, and we've got the certification, and we've taken the course. So, this thing has really taken off. We're definitely soaring to new heights together, and I'm excited to share a lot of learnings. Just before that, I want to go back and recap to a couple of things that I said last year. And if you were here, you might remember, as a community, we made some decisions, and we kind of said, let's agree on some collective terms. Because what we found are words are very powerful, and they can create clarity, but they can also create confusion. And this whole kind of space, this industry, this rebate world, was definitely heading for confusion. because there's actually more than 50 different types of rebates, B2B incentives, and even after these years or decades, again, I'm trying to find Sean again, but however long it's been, my vocabulary still grows every single day. I meet new companies and existing customers every single day, and you know, I still haven't learned, I still find new terms. So what we said is let's keep it really, really simple. A rebate is any B2B transaction whatsoever where funds flow back through the supply chain. Okay? Simple as that. Everyone knows that normally we pay our suppliers and our customers pay us. That's fairly normal. But a rebate is where we actually pay our customers and our supplier pays us, and also it happens after the transaction. That's the other key thing. It's after transactions happen, then there's this rebate thing that goes on. And it's really like a pay for performance. And that's one of the reasons why we see it's grown so much and will continue to grow, because it's driving performance, it's driving loyalty, and there's a huge opportunity in that. And the first generation of rebate management software was really a calculator. It was a calculator that was used in the corner of finance to do some calculations and accruals. And that was fine, and that's important. But it was also quite limited. So where it's kind of been going is broadening out into a much more comprehensive platform that's not only about calculations and not only about, you know, pure finance, but is also about helping us to increase our business performance across the whole business by using rebates. And then I think where we've been taking it from there is really trying to understand the overall life cycle of a rebate and you know, the literally kind of end-to-end process. And I think taking advantage of the cloud and modern technology to make sure that we can look at all aspects of this end-to-end process, that we can actually connect with our trading partners and get them on the same page. So when we've got an agreement, you know, both sides, or maybe more than two sides, it could be three parties, can actually connect and get on that same page together. From there, creating as much clarity as possible on our agreements. Okay? So what's the scope of the agreement? You know, what products are included? What customers are included within it? Start dates, end dates. You know, have we got the right incentives on the right agreement? So, and reaching agreement on that. And then, of course, the day-to-day transactions. The day-to-day transactions taking place, sales, purchases, making sure that we're matching those sales and purchases against the agreements and performing calculations. Something we've been working on a lot this year is the full claims and settlement process. So now we've got the agreement, it's all in place, there's clarity, we're tracking it, we're calculating it, but are we actually claiming and settling effectively based on that agreement? And then my favorite piece, which is a huge, huge opportunity, is the optimization. So like I said earlier, this isn't just about digitizing what we had on Excel, but it's now in the cloud. It really is, how can we do a lot better, and how can we get a lot of insight from our agreements and really you know, take them to the next level. And this again is where the rebate reset kicks in, of standing back and saying, is there a better way, a new way to structure things that will take our business to the next level? So this is really all what Enable is about. And as a reminder, you know, our mission at Enable is to enable trusted trading relationships to serve customers better together. That is our mission statement. And I think for me, you know, what's the purpose of business? Making a profit, sure, but actually the primary thing is to serve customers. Because if we can serve customers extremely well, and if you can serve customers extremely well, then profit is really a byproduct of that. And across so many industries, you know, 80% of global trade, companies are working together to serve customers. They cannot do it alone. There's very few examples. There's really no examples. You know, you could pick Apple and Tesla, where they kind of have done vertical integration, and they go from manufacturing to selling and retailing and support. But even they have critical partners that supply raw materials, and then for everyone else, you know, the best successful companies are working through channel, through partners, and they have to work together. So I think what we're really here to do is to say, if we can help manufacturers and distributors and retailers work closely together, have transparency around all of these trading agreements, then they can focus on serving customers rather than internally arguing, having different numbers, disputes, and that internal focus, really trying to get that external focus. And so all of the energy is focused on the customer rather than trying to work out, a trading agreement. So really on that note, we're focused on what can we do. We know we're just at the beginning. We've hardly got started on we're not fulfilling that mission. We're attempting to, but we're kind of at 1% of that. So as a quick update, in the last year, since I stood here at Elevate in December, we announced our Series D. I think the weather was actually similar than it is today, but this was in February in New York. And the Series D was a fundraise which really allowed us to invest even more into the product and into the team, and to add a lot of capabilities to really take the product to the next level. And I'll just share a couple of those now, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because we've got other presenters who are much more qualified than I am to talk about this. But one of them, I love to tell the story of the sales team who was looking to set up in a new market. Okay? They were looking to set up in a foreign market, long way away, and they sent 2 salespeople to go and investigate this market. One of them, and sorry, I should tell you, this is not a software company or a rebates company. This is a company that sells shoes. Okay? It's a company that sells shoes. The first person went to this market, this country far, far away, and what they discovered is it was a really challenging environment and that they were not going to do well. And they came back to base after a few weeks and said, this is terrible. We can't do anything in this market. Nobody wears shoes. There's no market. The second person went out and investigated, and they came back with the opposite response and said, this is an amazing opportunity for us. We need to put all our resources into this new market. Nobody wears shoes. We can take the market. We can literally take 100% market share. So we are not going to be selling shoes, okay? That's not a new product. But we are launching claims, okay? And why is this similar? This is similar because what we researched and found is that in many, many markets, distributors and retailers don't actually claim for rebates. They actually don't have a process. They don't submit claims. They basically just wait for payments to come in. And sometimes they do come in, but often they may not, and the amounts are not necessarily correct, okay? So for me, this is a bit like, imagine that we just didn't invoice our customers. We just hope that customers might send us some money in the mail, if they remember. So claims is really significant, and what we found is claims is going to automate and digitize the process for those companies who do claim today, but do it in a very manual way. And the signs are that companies that hadn't even thought of claiming before are now actually starting to use this capability to do that. So this is something which is quite significant for us, quite significant in the industry, and has had a lot of work so far this year. The second one, and I'm actually quite surprised I've got to maybe 20 minutes into my presentation, and I haven't yet mentioned the 2-letter acronym beginning with A. I don't know if anyone else is surprised or thinking, what's he doing? He's on stage not talking about AI. But clearly, this has been a significant movement in the last 12 months, and AI has been around for a very long time, but the public awareness of AI in the last 12 months has totally shifted, and I'm so excited about the use cases within our world, within rebate management. There's, again, some great presentations later on today about some of the specific use cases, but there's so much we can do with that whole optimization opportunity. And we're looking at how, and we are not just looking, we're also actually building and delivering AI across the whole platform of Enable. So really exciting. So I think the future is what we make it, for sure, but it's also how we prepare for it, how we set ourselves, our teams, and our companies up for success. And for me, that's really about being adaptable. We have to be adaptable. And it doesn't matter whether it's AI, or 20 years ago it was e-commerce, or 20 years before that it was the personal computer. It doesn't really matter what the change is, if we're adaptable, okay, and if we have the right kind of people and processes in place, then we can harness technology that comes out. But we have to have the right mindset. And I still find, the mindset is amazing on rebates, for example. I was talking to someone the other day who said to me, it's really interesting how you've turned a cost into an opportunity. Yeah? They actually think rebates are a cost, which, again, is fascinating, because there are many, many stories and successful case studies of companies driving growth. And in fact, I was having a conversation over dinner last night with John, and we were talking about maybe in really good cases a 200 or 300% increase in revenue through using rebates to drive growth. So the idea that rebates are a cost or an entitlement or a guarantee or a necessary evil, these are all still words I hear. And I think it really is important to, again, just step back and rethink this and look at how we can reset to really make sure that we're driving growth in our businesses. So I'm going to share a couple of stories. One really enlightened individual is Deanne Hammer here from 3M. And she was evaluating the rebate programs at 3M in a period following high inflation and price rises. So we have a short video just listening to what Deanne has to say about this.
So to me, it was just, let's just take a step back. Let's assume that we have everything that we have going today, but what are we seeing that we shouldn't see, like that we are expecting to pay out at the lowest tier? Maybe that's not driving behavior. Let's just take a step back and say, is it really driving the behaviors we want? Why or why not? And what could we change about that in the way that we're approaching rebates that also gives the customer the chance to earn a rebate, but it seems to be a little bit more balanced. So I think right now, and in that room that day, it was like sometimes rebates have just become that industry expectation. So are we happy with that? Are you happy with saying this is just purely an expectation of doing business, just a guarantee? Or are we saying we really want to use this to drive a program or a behavior? And if you're saying that, you have to take a step back. You have to look at what's happening in your data. You have to understand the customer's reaction and recall. I would say, like, if you walk into a customer at the end of the year and they go, "What rebate?"
Yep.
That's not good.
No.
So you have to come back and ask yourself those questions and then start to say, what's a different option?
Yep.
How do I move the parameters of that rebate, or how someone gets rewarded, and do they respond to that?
Yeah.
We've done a little bit of that moving into this year, and again, the response, like any just one step a little bit in a different direction, is a very emotional response, because there's an assumption. That's where you kind of start learning, like, is it just an assumption of a payout? Oh, there was an assumption that we were supposed to do something to earn that.
So I think really for me, what Deanna's talking about there is assessing, are the rebate programs driving behaviors? Are customers doing the things that we would like them to do because of the incentives that we're paying? And are those results because of what the customer is driving, or actually down to external factors, which is beyond what the customer can do? So I think some great questions that she raises there. And then the second part I'd like to just quickly play is what Deanne's take is on the rebate reset concept, because she was certainly one of those innovators of that concept.
My first impression is, we have just come off of a market with heavy inflation, and we've been doing a price increase every quarter, maybe even more than that. And we're racing to try and hold your margin, right? As many companies did. And when I saw the amount of money that were coming out in rebates, it was the first thing that shocked me is there was so much money in that rebate basket that some of those price increases, maybe we didn't need to do that. Maybe it could have came out of this other bucket. Because when you see the amount that's coming out in your waterfall in rebates, it's all of a sudden this very large thing that can really affect your margin,
Yeah.
right? More so than maybe even a price increase could at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that weighs very heavy on your mind because you're thinking, are these rebates driving behavior? Are customers doing the things we want them to do because we have these incentives?
Mm-hmm.
And you start questioning that because you've just come off of this heavy price cycle, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at how those rebates are set up, which is not easy, you know, are you paying on all products?
Mm-hmm.
What products are you paying on? Are you accounting for channel shift?
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking at consolidation? Like in the United States, we have heavy consolidation in the market, depending on what market you're in. If your rebate program is set up that you're not accounting for some of these external factors, you could simply be paying more because of some external factor that's coming in and hitting that particular rebate setup. It's really hard to know, you know, at the beginning of the year when you make that offer to a customer, what's going to happen throughout the year. So those things affect your payout, and modeling that can be a little difficult at times.
So really interesting there, I think, just to be stepping back and critically examining, you know, what do we have in place now? Is it working? Is it driving the behavior that we want to see? And trying to move away from a one-size-fits-all approach, which so many of us have had for a long time and in the past, and that actually creates something that's much more personalized to each trading partner, to each supplier, to each customer, to drive those individual goals and behaviors that we want to reach. So I think the other thing I want to just bring up and to go through quite quickly is some research that we did. And so Jay was top analyst at Forrester, a well-known analyst firm, and now is the chief analyst at Canalys, who focus on the channel. And so really looking at companies that sell through distributors, wholesalers, retailers, and again, that's a huge portion of the market. And he actually talked to 15 companies that had fully implemented the Enable system and really tried to uncover what the outcomes of those were. And we've got the report on our website, which you can download, which will go into a lot more detail than what I'm showing you. But I wanted to just really try and explain the different types of outcomes that can be achieved, rather than, you know, it's definitely not one size fits all. So one example here was for companies that are paying rebates out, how can they optimize so that they can actually pay less in total but get the same commercial outcome, the same result, by increasing the return on investment of each pound that they're spending. And there was a company here, and again you can see the full details on the report, who actually reduced their trade spend, if you like, by nearly £2 million and achieved the same amount of revenue and growth, even despite that. The flip side are companies where they're maintaining their investment, they're not reducing the amount of rebate they're paying, but they want to, again, get an increased return on that, and they're looking to get more revenue from the same rebate spend. And there's an example here of a 40% increase in revenue while not spending any more money on rebates. And then on the other side of the coin, in kind of receiving rebates, how companies can actually earn more margin, earn more rebates without necessarily spending or selling any more. And it's about optimizing on both sides. You know, where are we buying from, where are we selling to, based on the agreements we have in place and based on our activity so far. And where does it make most sense to spend and sell? Now, I'm fully aware we can't fully influence this. So customers, at the end of the day, often they have specified products. You know, we can't necessarily control, but we can influence where we buy from and where we sell to maximize margin based on the agreements we have in place. So this was another case study that's been done. Receiving cash quicker, when we think that, again, for most of our distributors and retailers, this rebate income is more than 100% of their profit, if we can bring that in 4 weeks instead of 12, then clearly that is a huge, you know, material change on the balance sheet. So there's plenty of examples of that. And the final example here I wanted to share is we often see companies have programs in place with quite a small number of partners because it's just quite hard to manage programs with a long tail of smaller partners. And so this is an example where the company doubled the number of programs they have, okay, and that resulted in 83% more rebate coming in within the first 12 months. So, you know, lots of different outcomes that you can achieve, and plenty of information behind these headlines that we can talk about later. But I think, from my perspective, these outcomes are just the beginning, because technology is evolving at a massive pace, and our job at Enable is to make this easy and accessible and secure so that you can all benefit from this technology. And we're clearly in a time of unprecedented transformation. More data is being catalogued than ever before, and AI has absolutely come into the mainstream and is totally transforming everything. And I actually think none of us in this room, maybe not even Ed, who's going to talk about this later, or possibly Ed, but none of the people in this room can imagine the full extent of what the possibilities will be here. What I can say for sure is in 5 years from now, the way that we're all going to be working and interacting with information and data will bear almost no resemblance to what it does today. And I think with change, often we're all too close to it, and it's hard to actually perceive. It's hard to perceive. We have to actually think back and remember the past to realize the extent of changes. So one thing I was thinking about was, I remember in the 90s, again, I'm dating myself, but in the 90s, when the internet wasn't really a thing yet, okay, the web was just starting to come into the mainstream, a bit like AI has been doing in the last year or so. We had dial-up modems to access the internet. And I remember seeing Bill Gates say that the internet will literally just become a seamless extension of our desktop. So we'll be on our computer, and the internet will literally be so close to us, it will just be, we'll be using it all day long. It will be on demand. And to me, that was unimaginable, that I'd be going on the internet all day long. I mean, why would I be doing that? People just use their computer and they didn't ever connect to the internet. Just think now, when we're not connected, when we're offline on our computer, it's actually very little that we can do. It's kind of, the whole thing has totally changed. And then I think another example would be with the iPhone, okay? And the fact that we used to have cameras, and we used to have music players, and who would have thought that we'd all be browsing the web and using it as our primary method on a phone? I mean, it was just totally crazy. And I can remember thinking that. But my point is that AI is, I think, going to be an even bigger change than both of those things. And it will totally change everything that we're doing. And of course, rebate management is not only immune, but it's just an ideal candidate. Because there's so many use cases for using AI to help us to achieve all of the outcomes that I'm talking through today. So for me, AI is not coming for our jobs, quite the opposite. It's really here to help us do our jobs better, to automate and streamline our work, and really help us model what the future might look like, and then make better decisions based on that modeling. It's going to help us to automatically ingest our transaction data, automatically ingest our master data and our agreements. It's also going to kind of clean and help to clean our data and actually link it to our trading partners so we can talk the same language, product codes linking together. It's going to identify errors in data, and it's going to fix many of those things automatically. But it's not just about AI and data, it's also about us in the middle of it. And it's going to be able to run millions of simulations and look at scenarios, buy-sell recommendations, and comb through thousands of trends and highlight opportunities, and even suggest new agreements and agreements that could be mutually beneficial for you and your trading partners. And it starts with putting you in control and letting you define what's important for you and your partners to measure. That's really where this starts. So our new AI-powered analytics are self-serve, and you can create kind of tailored insights within it for your teams and also the teams within your trading partners. The best part about it for me is NLP, which I learned is not neuro-linguistic programming, apparently that's something else, but natural language search, or natural language processing. So you can actually ask questions in plain English, just like you've got a business analyst in the room, and it will answer those questions. So I think, just to try and wrap some of this up, the reason I'm mentioning all of this, the reason I'm talking about what we're doing to complete the rebate cycle with technology, AI, is that we have to change what we're doing, and what got us here will not get us to the next stage. that there has to be the ability to adapt and the ability to really kind of embrace new technology to get to that next stage. And we know what it's called. If we keep doing the same thing and expect different results, that's something that we're all quite familiar with. So let's move from insanity back to the rebate reset, and I'm just going to try and summarize as I close down here, what I think the key practical steps are to actually make this happen. The first thing really is to reflect on what you have now. Reflect on the agreements that you have in place with your suppliers, with your customers, and understand, or actually ask the question, do you understand what your customers, what your suppliers are trying to achieve, what their goals are? Is it growth? Is it margin? Is it market share? Is it trying to gain better insight, for example? So what's actually the purpose behind this? And really kind of deeply reflect on that. And then the next part of it is to think, how are we going to win with our trading agreements, with our trading partners, and why is that going to be the best way to win? So there are many, many different ways to do this. There is no single answer to the types of agreements you can put in place, and I've seen many of them. But to really kind of consider what the approach and what the strategy will be is important. And you need to involve every function. So it has to be finance, it has to be purchasing, it has to be sales, it has to be across all of those functions to make that happen. And then in terms of the rubber hitting the road and actually going into the actual transformation, this doesn't have to be a big bang. So you don't have to do this across every single customer, every single supplier in one kind of hit. You can actually make this targeted. You could do the top 5 or top 3 or top 10 and really track this. But the important thing is it has to be collaborative. So you have to kind of do this with your trading partner, and it has to be real time, or at least daily data. It won't work on monthly or quarterly or kind of let's look in the last quarter of the year. We have to do this using kind of real-time data. So hopefully, what I'm leaving you with here is, it really is time to evolve. It's really time to move from using rebates as blunt instruments, which have been the case often in the past, into this new world of targeted, personalized, surgical kind of tools that can really help us to grow. And you guys in this room are the change your organizations need. You're in the perfect place to make this happen because there's no one closer to the trading agreements than you are, and you're really equipped to put this in place within your business and with your trading partners. You have the keys to the world of rebates, which are the best incentive there is. And again, I took this phrase from John in the room here. Discounts are quickly forgotten, but rebates are earned. Okay, and so you can really put these in place and create a great competitive advantage within your company. And I think you can truly become seamless extensions of each other. So as a manufacturer, you can really be a seamless extension of your distributor. And if you're a distributor, you can become an extension of your manufacturers. You can do that by putting these programs in place. This is really how the winners are going to succeed, and what we've seen work very, very well at Enable with our customers. So I want to just leave you with this, to summarize what I've been saying here. You may not know this yet, but you are the change your organizations need. You are the change that you need. You're the change that your teams need, and also the change that your trading partners need. You're capable of this, and now is more important than ever before. You, your teams, your companies will need to be adaptive, really need to adapt. You need to be resilient, and you're going to have the right people, the right processes, and the right technology in your corner to create competitive advantage and to thrive as a company. You know there's a better way, so now let's go and do this together. Thank you very much.